All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Going to be breaking down the 4-game slate that we have today. Let's go ahead and get into it. So let's start off with this first game, which is going to be the Clippers versus the Magic, guys. Kind of an ugly game point total wise. Pull it up here on the cheat sheet, starting with Orlando. So it is going to be about a 219 game total, so a very low scoring game. Point spread wise, 5.5 point spread in favor of the Magic, which is kind of interesting there. I know the Clippers have struggled. The Clippers are going to be without Kawhi, but the Magic are going to be without Banchero. And so with that, are we getting any good values here? Well, Jalen Suggs is kind of interesting. Project to get 26 minutes at 6K. Sure, he's a fine play on a 4-game slate. I think we're going to be okay with that. Don't mind the idea of trying to get to a little bit of Anthony Black or Wendell Carter on the slate, or even Tristan Da Silva there. They're all fine plays, but they're also all plays that we don't necessarily need to go out of our way to target. For the Clippers, I would say a little bit better. Like Zubac is a decent play center-wise. Project to get 31 minutes, guys. Almost a 5x play. And then Bogdanovich as well. I don't really understand the pricing for him. Priced at 4.2. He's projected to get 27 minutes. And he is someone that lately for them has been, playing extremely well. 4 straight games of over 20 DFS points, which for this 4-game slate, I think we'll take that. I think the issue is going to be the low game total, but kind of well for this 4-game slate. I do like getting to him a decent amount again on this smaller slate. Then from there, there's really not much there for the Clippers. So let's go ahead and get on into another game. We'll go into Milwaukee versus Philadelphia. So guys, for this game, it really does matter of whether or not Joel Embiid is going to be active. I think that really kind of changes who we can be on really for both teams. It kind of knocks down some of the Bucks players a little bit, and then it obviously would knock down a lot of the Sixers players that we can be on. So it does matter whether or not Embiid's going to be active. But for now, I'm kind of assuming that he is going to sit. So we do know that Giannis is out for the Bucks. Ryan Rollins is a very interesting play. He is someone that fantasy score-wise should be able to get right around his projection. I actually think I think the data is pretty correct on him. His usage goes up by 9.8% per 36 with Giannis off the court, averages about 25 points at about 7.2 assists. So he could end up having an even better day. It is a game that's projected to stay close, about a 225 point total. So we do like that there. It is a little bit of a guessing game as to which Bobby Portis or Kyle Kuzma we want to get to, or do we want to get to any of them? I do think getting to one of them makes sense. It's just kind of getting to whichever one's going to end up being hot. Miles Turner is someone that I would like a lot more if Joel Embiid does end up sitting, guys. I think that increases his likelihood to end up getting a double-double. Per 36-wise, he does average about 8.6 rebounds per 36 with Giannis off the court. And so he'd be someone I think we'd be looking at a little bit more there if Embiid does end up sitting. And so for the Sixers, we do have Embiid projected for 25 minutes currently. Okay, so right now he's in. If he does end up sitting, I think Andre Drummond would be a little bit interesting, but I don't know if we necessarily need to get to him. The player that would be the one we would want to get to the most is VJ Edgecombe, as we saw yesterday. Now, we do know that Paul George is back, but he's priced up a little bit too much, guys, at 6.9, projected to get 21 minutes. That does hurt VJ Edgecombe a little bit in terms of his usage, but really with Embiid potentially being active, that's what's really going to hurt him. That would also hurt Maxey a little bit as well. He becomes a tougher click with Embiid on the court. Both of them become better options with Embiid potentially sitting. And so looking at the plays that I want to get to here in this game, I am fine getting to Rollins right now. That could end up changing. Edgecombe at the shooting guard spot, I do like. Again, I don't mind the idea of getting to one of Kyle Kuzma or Bobby Portis, just trying to get the player that's going off correct there. If you're making 2 lineups, maybe you could go with that. And then Miles Turner, I don't mind. This is actually a decent spot. I do expect him to be able to get to around 35 for his fantasy score, again, especially if Embiid does end up sitting. Now let's go ahead and get into the Hawks versus the Spurs. So guys, kind of an interesting spot here for the Spurs. We know that Wemby's out. We know that Castle's out. We know that Harper's out. So with that, I do think we can expect Harrison Barnes and also Keldon Johnson to really get the minutes that they're projected to get. And if they do end up getting that, they should be in for really good spots for us. And then De'Aaron Fox, he feels like a safe play on this slate unless he goes ice cold. He went 10 for 20 in the last game. He's at 25 points. I think that's a pretty accurate projection for him. So he feels like a safe pay-up option. Gasol, I don't mind. And Jeremy Sohan as well. If he's going to get 24 minutes, he's kind of a point per minute producer. I kind of think this ends up being wrong for him. The issue with the Spurs is that they are spreading out the minutes, but I do really like getting to about 3 players here from the Spurs tonight. And that's mostly due to it being a 4-game slate, but they're all a little bit too cheap for me. in this close game. And it's a decently high scoring game as well. And so for the Spurs, if we can get to Fox, I do want to do that. I don't know if we're necessarily going to be able to. I do want to get to Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, or Sochan I want to get to. For now, we'll go with Harrison Barnes, assuming he's going to get 30 minutes. But if you want to get to Sochan as well as a value, I don't mind that. I do think there's a good chance he gets to, around 20 DFS points. I don't think we're expecting a lot, but enough out of him. And then for the Hawks, it is we are waiting on news as to whether or not Porzingis is going to play or Reischer. I don't really like any of the Hawks plays, so let's see what the data is telling us. Oh, Keaton Wallace. Okay, Keaton Wallace. So he'd be someone that I think we could only get to if those two players do end up sitting again. But if they all play, I mean, maybe Jalen Johnson, but he's priced up a little bit too much for me. Although he has been going off lately. Like, it was not a bad thing to get to around 50 fantasy points again on this 4-game slate, especially with Wemby out there for the Spurs. That would benefit him a decent amount. And that being said, Porzingis, I think, becomes a little bit more appealing again with Wemby out there for the Spurs. And then we go ahead and get into the Kings versus the Grizzlies. The biggest piece of news here is whether or not Sabonis is going to end up being active. If he is, he's actually not a terrible play. If he ends up sitting, that does make it a little bit easier in regards to who we can be on for the Kings. Be looking at Westbrook a little bit more, Schroeder a little bit more, DeRozan would be more in play. And then it is worth calling out, guys. Yesterday it was Precious, the one that really went off in the last game, 28 minutes in that game. And so definitely worth calling out. If Sabonis is out, we're probably just loading up on him, assuming that those minutes are still going to be there for him. But again, we are still waiting on that news. I am kind of expecting Sabonis to play. He is currently projected to play as well and would end up being the best value here for the Kings. Okay, so it is tough to give you guys advice on them specifically, but for the Grizzlies, it's a little bit easier. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out, and we also know that Ja Morant is out. And so with that, Sente Aldama popping up as a good value at 5.8. Zach Edey, also not terrible. The plays that I like the most are Coward, and then also I like Vince Williams, projected for 27 minutes and 31.2 fantasy points. I want to get to him the most. And so for me, I'm trying to get to Vince Williams instead. We can put him in the forward spot there. And then we have 7.1 left over. I do want to get to someone here from Memphis. Doesn't exactly work with what we have. I mean, I don't mind Edey at the center spot. I think it'd be fine if he does get 25 minutes. I do think there's a great chance for him to end up hitting value. I don't mind Aldama. He feels like a somewhat safe play as well. So let's expand it out. Who can we get to? Miles Turner. I'm happy. $400 left over. Pretty solid. Now, yesterday, guys, gave you guys a pretty darn awesome build. You guys know that at the end of it, we had to get to KD and then another punt play. Other than that, very good stuff. But let's go ahead and see what the 9-to-5 lineup builder is spitting out to us. And so right now, the top lineups that we are getting to are Suggs, Bane, Coward. I'm okay with that. Aldama, Edey, Fox, Vince Williams, and Keaton Wallace. Don't mind that lineup. It's a pretty solid base there as well. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to leave a like on your way out. That does help out the channel. Also subscribe. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck with all your lineups for today. And as always, let's keep cashing.